Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Sideline Speaks with myself, Brittany Jones, alongside Jason Collins and Kevin Walker. What's going on, K Walker and Jay?
All is well, all is well. Looking forward to another great one.
Yeah, everything's good. Should be a good show tonight. And K Walk, man, I love the T-shirt, man.
Oh, you got
We
it.
got another classic on
Uh,
tonight. Homie the
I saw that
classic.
somewhere. I gotta get me one of those. I gotta get me one of those.
that's the classic. In Living
Right.
Color, my
Yeah,
favorite.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Favorite, real quick, y'all, before we get started. Favorite character, one of your favorite characters. There was so many of them from In Living Color.
Oh,
Homie is my
Or
favorite.
homie
or
was
favorite
good.
skits.
Antoine when Damon Wayans did with Antoine. The bum, the drum.
Yo, yeah. He was good. He was good. He was really good. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to
Um,
remember. You gotta love Fire Marshal Bill too. He
Yeah.
was
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one.
And the two
Um,
what was it? I forget their name when they had the car. Bam! I forget their names though. It was Tommy Davidson and David Allegretti. They were the salespeople. They were the hustle dudes.
Oh, okay.
oh
I
yeah,
don't remember that
I
one as
remember
much.
that one.
Oh, okay, man.
I remember
Benita,
the movie
Benita
review
Betrayal.
guys, right?
What's that?
The movie,
Benita,
the guys that
oh,
reviewed the movies. That
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember what they called themselves, but
The
yeah,
men on film. Men on
yeah,
film.
men on film. Yeah, they were funny.
three snaps in the circle. Can we get you guys to do that? No, we're
Nah.
not going. Okay, no, that's too much.
That
All
was
right.
everything going on, man. That was everything going on.
It's not the same when I do it. Like it don't hit the same. All right.
Mm-mm.
Well, for me it was Benita Patrol, Kim Waynes, and then I'm gonna shout out Marlon Waynes when he did. I know he told the real story of when he got Shubba. He got mad at him, but he said, "Mr.
Oh yeah,
Ugly
yeah,
Shubba,"
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
started sweating. That was a good one. So
yeah.
if you guys don't know In Living Color, I think at one point it was better than SNL back in the day. So go look up the old clips. The first 4 seasons. I think it was the first 3 or 4 because that last season they kind of left. So look up the
J-Lo
first
was a
four
fly
seasons.
girl on there and everything.
Yes, J Lo was a fly girl. Rosie Perez was
The
the
coordinator.
coordinator or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah. So check it out. It was funny. But thank you for tuning in today, guys. Please, we're gonna ask everyone to please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sideline Speaks. We are also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Sideline Speaks, and anywhere you can listen to your podcast. And of course, always on time. We got to shout out Sandy. What's going on, Sandy?
What's up,
Hey,
Always
Sandy?
on
Sean.
time.
Sean, what's going on tonight?
Appreciate you
We
guys as
appreciate
always.
you guys. But we got to get started, y'all. We have a lot going on today. We also have a special guest for you guys as well. Should we say his name now or just wait till later?
Yeah, Brian
Yeah,
Brian
why
Baker,
not?
head, I mean, well, not
Okay,
head
so
coach, but defensive coach for various
yes,
teams, NFL teams.
yes, NFL coach, college coach Brian Baker, known for the defensive side. I think last year he was with Georgia Tech as a defensive line coach analyst, I do believe. So his coaching ranks is unfreaking believable, but he should be on any minute and we'll be able to ask him some questions about his coaching career and maybe some of the players that he coached as well. So stay tuned for that as well. That's actually coming up real quick. But before all of that, we got to get to this first thing that just happened. I know I had a whole list of things to talk about, but that always gets flipped upside down when we get announcements. And the first one that happens today is the one and only Raiders wide receiver Devontae Adams has officially requested a trade. Guys, give me your thoughts on this and what team do you think he will go to or he should go to? Jay, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I can understand why he would want to get out of there, right? It just doesn't. I mean, there was a lot of high hopes when he first went there, but it just hasn't worked out the way that I think anybody thought that it would. So I understand why he wants to get out of there. Now, wanting to get out and actually getting out, those could be two completely different things. But if we're going to assume that the Raiders might be willing to play ball and make some kind of deal. Look, I think the Dallas Cowboys are probably on the short list. I mean, this is a team that did not do anything in the offseason, and clearly they need to make some upgrades. So, I mean, if you could add him to their receiving core, I think that's a pretty nice 1-2 punch with CD Lamb. There's some other teams around the league that have had some injuries. K-Walk, your 49ers have had some injuries at the receiver position. The location wise, it's a nice fit, not too far from where he is right now. So I think that's another team on the short list. But I guess you never really know, Britt. But those are two teams that kind of come to mind just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't think I'm surprised about the trade request. I knew it was going to happen eventually. They have no quarterback, you know.
Yeah.
I think they was kind of holding tight on to him for the last couple years, ever since Derek Carr left. And you know, I give Devontae Adams credit because he has stayed professional throughout this entire time. He hasn't really complained at all, maybe except for when they was looking for a head coach and he put his voice out there. I want Antonio Pierce, and he definitely got what he wanted. So, but I think it's time for them to part ways now. Jay, I know you said I think the 49ers was one of your teams, and then what was the other one?
Cowboys.
That fast. And the
Cowboys.
Cowboys was the other one. It's interesting with the Cowboys because they don't make a lot of in-season trades, so it's going to be interesting about that. Will they decide to pull the plug here? I have no idea. Because Devontae Adams' contract is pretty reasonable right now.
Yeah.
But I like the Baltimore Ravens is a good option as well. You know what they just did to, I can't even think of the last team that they played. Was that the Bills? They just basically put a smack down against them.
Yeah.
With Derrick Henry. Like if you add Devontae Adams to that group, my goodness, they may be the favorites. And then you can never forget about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. There's a relationship there.
Yeah.
They have chemistry. They know each other well. You got Devontae Adams on one side, Garrett Wilson on another side. That wide receiver core will be ridiculous. So those are two options that I'm looking at. I'm not looking the Chiefs' way. I would be very surprised at the Chiefs because they're within the division. So if that happens, I would be totally shocked. It's a possibility, but it's very rare that happens. But K-Walk, your thoughts?
I'm going with the Chiefs. I think it's too much of a coincidence that Rice goes down with that knee injury, and Devontae Adams, not even a couple of days later, he's requesting a trade. I know I said it that it's probably going to be hard to do. We probably won't see it. But I can't put anything past the Chiefs because it's hard to especially with a player like Devontae Adams. In my opinion, he's the best receiver in the game today. Today, he's my best receiver. Being in division with the Raiders, they have to make them an offer that they can't refuse, and what they're asking for is a receiver in return and a second round pick. That's what I'm hearing. That's what they're asking. Now, obviously, the Chiefs don't really have a receiver,
Right?
Receiver, the worthy there. So I don't know what they could come up with, but can't put anything past the Chiefs, man. I soon this happened. I actually thought about this before it happened because I was looking at it, I was like, Chiefs went down. I mean, the Rice went down, and this is before Adams even said he wanted to trade. I said somehow they're going to figure out a way to get Adams in there. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to do it. It's too much of a coincidence for me. So I'm just saying the Chiefs. If it's not the Chiefs, I like Dallas. I like that look, Jay. That's a good look there. Britt, I didn't think about the Jets, but the Jets is another one, another good one as well. But my favorite right now is the Chiefs. I just think it fit for both. Like you mentioned, Britt, the salary this year is like 17.5. That's nothing for a receiver, and an elite receiver like Devontae Adams. But I'll say the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and I like the Jets too. I didn't think about the Jets, but I like them there as well. But he wants to go to a contender. So,
do you think they'd be willing to give up Worthy to bring him in?
Nah, Jay. I think they want to pair those two together.
Yeah.
I think they want to pair those two together. You have to. I mean, yeah, you just have to pair those two together, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm just, it sounds too good to be true. Like it just sounds too good to be true. And my question with the Raiders is, do you want to basically give your division rival another potential ring? That's because if they get Devontae Adams, that's not going to be an easy team to beat, because they still got Travis Kelce. I know he's starting awfully slow, but he usually catches on the back end of the season going into the playoffs. And I'm not a huge fan of Xavier Worthy. To me, he's more of a speedster more than anything. I'll give him, a little bit more credit than I will some of the other guys, but I still think he has a lot to develop. But when you got Devontae Adams on that other side,
Yeah.
Xavier Worthy is going to look like a superstar on that team. So,
Mhm.
because your defense is going to be trying to stop Devontae Adams and now Travis Kelsey. Um, and then you're gonna have Xavier Worthy just run down every 5 seconds because he's gonna outrun
Yeah.
your one corner or your safety or whoever you try to put on him if it's only a one-to-one matchup, so a man-to-man matchup. So I'm still gonna be shocked. My person, I'm gonna say the Jets. I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is gonna get what he wants for some reason. I
Yeah.
don't know what their finances are looking like, who they're able to um give up or whatnot. But I just think may and maybe they have a little bit more. They might have what the Raiders want. They got the receiver and the pick. So, but we'll see what happens. Jay,
Yeah.
like you had some thoughts.
No, I agree with you, Britt. I think one of the teams we mentioned will probably be where he ends up. But again, it's just going to be interesting to see what teams are willing to give up in order to get him. Because, I mean, if you're the Raiders, you just can't let him walk out the door. Like, you got to
No.
feel like you're getting something back in
Right.
return, whether it's a young prospect that has a lot of potential or
Yeah.
somebody that's ready to go right away. So to me, that's going to be the interesting part. What are teams willing to let go in order to get him in the door?
I'm gonna throw two more teams out there. I'm gonna say the Saints and the Bills. I'm gonna throw them in the mix as well. I think they have
Mhm.
some receivers that that the Raiders can get back in return. But we'll see how. Like, I know Devontae Adams is an aging receiver, and you don't want to give up your future for a guy that you may only have for like 3-4 years, as opposed to a guy you're gonna have possibly for 10 years. So, but those are two teams I'm gonna throw in the mix as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, K. Walk. But I'd also say though, if you felt like he was like the difference maker, if he was
Right
that
now, yeah.
guy that was going to get
Hmm.
you over the hump to win a Super
Yeah.
Bowl, then it might be worth it. You know what I mean? So it's just going to be really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So, question pertaining to this, since we got a few more minutes here. Will this trade lead to any more trade requests coming out of Raiders Nation? Because I have heard rumblings. Look, it's not set in stone or anything, but you start hearing things about potential Matt Crosby. I know he's out. I think he's hurt for a little bit. Well, same
Yeah.
thing with Devontae Adams is hurt as well. Could this potentially lead to a Matt Crosby trade request? Because it seems like once you trade Devontae Adams, I'm not sure what else this team can do. It might be time to start over, it seems like. So could Max Crosby potentially request a trade this season as well? Anybody can take it.
Yeah, he could. I don't see. I wouldn't be surprised, like you mentioned, Britt, if it happened, because it's you would think they would give Antonio Pierce a little bit more time. These guys knew what they had coming in, especially with the quarterback position. So, um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't see it happening, Britt. You say you've heard rumblings about it. I haven't heard anything like that. Not saying it isn't true, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think Max Crosby is one of those guys who's a committed guy, he's a loyal guy, and
Hmm.
he's going to honor that contract. I don't see him wanting out of there, because if he wants out of there, that's going to be just a fire sale. And it's going to be like people just throwing out furniture, and then on the lawn to get rid of it, and then people
Right.
just coming by to pick it up. But yeah, I don't see Max doing it. I really don't, to be honest with you. But I'd be surprised if he did.
Yeah, and what are the
Yeah.
Raiders? They're
Go ahead.
they're they're like 2-2 right now, right?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
it's
so
still good.
they're
Yeah,
I mean they're sitting at
Hmm.
500. So
yeah,
I mean, I could see if they were 0-4 and it just didn't look like this thing was going anywhere, then maybe I could
yeah.
see an aging player like Crosby that might want to win. But I mean, for now, they're still in the mix. I mean, that could all change in a couple weeks,
Right.
but right now, I
Right.
think with them being 2-2 and still in the mix, I would. I mean, maybe Britt, because you just never know what guys are thinking,
Same.
especially if kind of behind the scenes it's chaotic and dysfunctional, which I'm not saying it is, but
Yeah.
if that is the case, then maybe guys would want to get out of there. But yeah, it's going to
Mhm.
be a wait and see type thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it came about because well, I heard before Devontae Adams officially requested the trade, there were
Mhm.
small rumblings, nothing big, nothing major, anything like that, of Devontae Adams, Max Crosby may be looking to get a trade because they want to contend. They're getting older. They want to contend. They, be part of a team that's just they don't know who their quarterback is or what they're going to
Right.
be.
Right.
Every year they're just not sure. So, and then next thing you know, Devontae Adams trade came out about a week or so later. Uh, um,
No, right.
and then once you start seeing certain guys leave your team, and you're the other star, and you've been there for a very long time, you're like, wait, well, I'm also not getting any younger, as in Max Crosby, and I do want to win as well. I don't think he's going to win with the Raiders. I don't even
No.
think he's going to be able to contend with the Raiders. They don't even have a quarterback. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for Gardner Minshew, but he's not a starter in this NFL. And then outside of, once you get rid of Devontae Adams, who's their offense? I don't know who's on their offense anymore.
Yeah.
So, who's their other receiver? I don't even know.
Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is the he's not bad,
Uh,
but he's not Devontae Adams either. So, yeah,
right.
I think it's kind of different though, bro, because when you have a Devontae Adams and you don't have a quarterback to get you the ball, and you need him to in order for that team to win, in order for that offense to go.
Mhm.
I can see why he wants out of there because there's no quarterback there. But as far as Max Crosby, that's why I said it was kind of surprising if he leaves there because he's a defensive end. He's
Mhm.
arguably the best defensive end in the game, if not the best, one of the best, obviously. But yeah, I think it's two different situations, Britt. I know they both want to win, but the two different positions, I think, this is why we see Devontae Adams wanting to get out of there because he wants the ball. He needs the ball. He needs the
Right.
ball, and they don't have anyone to get him the ball consistently, to be honest with
Uh, Jay, any final thoughts on this
No.
Raiders thing situation? Maybe it's
No.
my wishful thinking that Max Crosby will try to request a trade because I know a team who got rid of Hassan Reddick and they need a defensive end right now. I'm
No.
just saying. I'm just play.
you. Yeah,
Let's
I'm
put it
surprised
out
y'all didn't
there.
mention. I'm surprised you
Let's
didn't mention Devontae Adams and the Eagles.
let's. No, we don't need Devontae Adams. That's we
Okay.
being no. That's a little too much. Like that's overkill for the offense. Let's just focus on them getting healthy first and then figure that out later. But wishful thankful for me with Max Crosby. So we got some time to talk about Colorado for a second. At least we'll start. If our guest pops in, then we'll finish
Yeah,
up
let's just do
later.
that.
So
Let's just continue to roll until he
um
gets here.
I want to talk about Coach Prime and Colorado. As we know, they just beat UFC in a nice victory, and they are now 4-1. 4-1. Give me your thoughts on Colorado, guys, because a lot of the naysayers are now
Yeah.
they're starting to quiet down a little bit. Quiet down. I think Paul Feinbaum, even though did I say his name right? ESPN
Yeah.
analyst
Yeah.
Paul Feinbaum. Boom, sorry. He even apologized. So, or he said he made a mistake. What are your thoughts on Coach Prime, Shador, Travis Hunter, and the rest of the Colorado being 4-1? Anybody could take it.
Yeah, but I think for me, I think that was the best win, the best game that they've played since Coach Prime has been there. Like just in terms of having a complete game, they look like a pretty good football team because myself and K Walk, we both thought they were going to lose on Saturday
Yeah.
because UFC is a pretty good UCF. Sorry, it's a
Yes.
pretty good.
UCF,
It's a
yes,
pretty good.
UCF. I'm
Pretty
sorry,
good
did I say
football team.
UFC? I meant to say
Yeah,
UCF.
I might be thinking about fighting. I don't know.
That's how they felt. It felt like they were playing.
But they're a pretty good football team, and the thing too that I think sometimes people in media and even I forget that college teams like they can get better throughout the year. Like what you look like week 1, week 2 is not necessarily what you're going to look like week 7 and week 8, especially if you have good coaching. And I think one of the things that I noticed Saturday, you can tell that those guys got better. Like they shored up a lot of things on the defensive line. Their offensive line played a good game. I think
Mhm.
Shore was only sacked twice in that game, which is really good for
Yeah.
Colorado. And then when you just
Right.
factor in some of the individual talent, like Travis Hunter, every week this guy just does something incredible. I mean, he's averaging close to 100 yards receiving. He's getting interceptions. He's tackling. Like he's literally
Yeah.
doing it all. And then let's not forget that Shador is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Whether you like him or not,
Mhm.
he's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire
Mhm.
country. So when you got a great quarterback, you got some guys that can make plays, and then you start playing sound fundamental football, that's a nice recipe for success. So they're
Yeah.
4-1. The schedule's going to get a little bit tougher as they kind of keep going. But I think for now, you got to give Coach Prime and that staff a lot of credit.
Look, coming from like last year, I think we all have to understand last year was his first year at Colorado. So there's going to be some things that just wasn't going to work. You're trying to figure figure it out. It's a new situation, new. I don't want to say league. It's not a new league. It's still college, but you know what I mean. New conference that you're a part of. So a little bit of stronger conference. Um, but things are not going to go right your first year. I don't know any head coach really, unless you just walked into a situation where you had nothing but superstars on your team and you basically just had to sit back and watch everybody play. You didn't have to do much and they go and win a championship. How many times can we count on our hands that has happened in really any conference in college or even in the pros? Not very much. So it's usually going to take a year, maybe a couple years for you to get acclimated, for you to figure out what positions you need to try to go get better talent at, the coaching situation. And I feel like they're on that trend this year. There still may be some things that they need to work on, but every team has their deficiencies, right? They went out last year, got offensive line in the offseason. Boom, we could see the improvement this year, right? So I cannot knock or deny, continuously knock Coach Prime and what he's doing because he has been a winner every single level that he has either played or he has either coached. So he understands on what it takes, but he has to be allotted the time to be able to do that. He's one and I understand his name brings the media and the lights and the criticism and all that other nonsense, but let's be fair to him as well. He just needed a little bit of time, just like any of these head coaches. It's very rare a head coach walk into a situation, like I said earlier, and they're going to go to the championship from the very beginning. Now, I don't even think they're going to go to the championship this year,
No,
but
me either.
I like where they're headed. I like the direction that they're headed in. But K-Walk, what are your thoughts on Colorado?
Yeah, I think Jay hit it on the head. I think what we've seen differently this year than we did it last year is it's not the talent that they brought in. I think it's the coaching is the big
Mm-hmm.
difference. I think we've seen Jay mentioned it, the adjustments that they made. I think Jay used the term they shored up a lot of things, and I think that's what you have to look at this particular team because the talent is still there. The overall talent is still there with Shador, with Travis, and you know those guys. They did bring different linemen, and yes, you're absolutely right there, Britt. But I think what we saw in the beginning of the season, even though they brought in different linemen, we still saw the same type of non-physical play, if you will. Still guys,
Mm-hmm.
Shador still running for his life. But last week we saw, or Saturday we saw that he didn't have to run for his life as much. And
Mm-hmm.
they like, again, it's still Jay's term here. They shored up a lot of things, and you see that now. And I think that's what's a bit the biggest thing here. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the coaching to complement that, it's just talent running around. It's just a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, not knowing where to go. It's kind of like the that old school electric football game. You just put
Right.
the guys there, you turn on the thing, everybody run around and hoping something good happens. But yeah, but you see the Colorado and the coaching definitely is the biggest. I think the biggest factor here, the biggest difference from last year to this year right now, and of course the play of Shador Sanders, it continues to elevate, and Travis Hunter is just a freak of nature, man. This young man is just doing things that you've seen. I think that we've only seen, and he may be doing it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
better than Charles Woodson.
Yeah, I think he
Dare
is.
I say? Dare
Yeah.
I say? But yeah, he's looking outstanding right now, man. And I made a little joke at 49ers. They could trade up for this guy. Go get him, man. I mean, he's really that good, man. I mean,
Yep.
anybody who gets this young man is going to just going to have just the playbook is just going to be expanded tremendously. But yeah, but I like the coaching and what they're doing here, and these guys responding to that as well.
Yeah, that receiving core is incredible.
Yeah, fast
Yeah,
too.
Travis
How fast
Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn
Yep.
Jr., I believe is his name, and then
Yep.
I can't. Is it Shepard? Is the other kid? His name is
I think
Shepard.
so. The transfer from Vandy, I think.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
so.
Shepard's
Was
in
that
there.
the one?
Number 14. I'm not sure. That might not be his name,
Is
but
it Shepard?
I know who you're
I don't
talking
know.
about.
I
I
don't know
Yeah.
think
why
it's the
Shepard
one who
just.
caught that big
Yeah,
time play in the end zone. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
yeah, like the receiving core is just incredible. You hit it right on the on the head, K Walk, with Travis Hunter. My goodness. We haven't seen a player like this in a very, very long time. And the conditioning that he must have to
What?
do to be able to continuously play both sides of the
And that
ball,
heat
it to
too.
me is incredible. Yes, in the heat. I mean, I guess the good thing is they're in Colorado is going to get cold very
Oh yeah.
quick. So hopefully that helps a little bit,
I'm
but
talking about this
still,
past Saturday. It was like over
Yeah,
100 degrees there, boy.
yeah.
Good gracious.
Oh my goodness. It is Shepherd. It is Shepherd.
yeah, yeah. Will Shepherd. Yep.
I just I the and now offensive lineman Warren Sapp got these not offensive lineman defensive lineman Warren Sapp got these young defensive tackles in that middle playing very very well. I can't think of the young man's name, but he made a couple big plays against UCF. Let me make sure I say it right this time. So it was
Yeah.
incredible. It was like every week, I'm an Ohio State person. I'm like, okay, it's not a big game this week. I can skip your game. Let me make sure I watch this Colorado game. So it's like Colorado has my attention right now. But I'm thoroughly impressed. So speaking of Travis Hunter, though, do you think? I have two questions. Let me go with the one question first. He says that he wants to play both sides of the football in the NFL. I know we discussed this before. We probably going to continuously discuss it until we actually see NFL. Do you
Right.
guys still feel he'll be able, with the physicality in the NFL, it's a different ball game than college. Do you still think he'll be able to play both sides of the football, or eventually he's going to be like, I have to choose? Maybe not his first year, but maybe somewhere down the line he's going to say, I got to make a decision here because it's taking a toll on my body.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about player safety and players' health, and football is only a certain lifespan of, or a certain part of your life. You still got a long life behind after football is well over. Um, do you think eventually he's going to have to make that decision, whether he likes it or not? Anybody could take it.
Yeah, I think that decision is probably going to be made for him at the next
Exactly.
level. Like I find it
Mm-hmm.
hard to believe that anyone's going to be able to play both ways full time in the
Yeah.
NFL. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's possible. Now, look, he's defied the odds a lot. So is it possible that maybe he'll be the guy to do it? Maybe, but I just don't think so. I think, like you said, Britt, even if conditioning wise he was in the kind of shape to do it, I think eventually the physicality of the NFL would catch up to him. So I think he's going to be whatever they choose, whether he's like full-time receiver and then maybe
Mm-hmm.
plays like 10 plays on defense, or whether he's a full-time corner
Yeah.
and they run him in for 5 to 10 plays on offense. I could see him doing something like that. I just don't see how he's going to do. I just don't see how he's going to do it both at the next level.
Yeah.
Okay, Walker, any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with Jay. I just think that with the difference in from college to NFL, it's huge. Like you guys both talked about the physicality of it. I mean, he gets into he wants to play corner, and they come running around. Derrick Henry comes running around that corner on a sweep. And you got to sit there and exactly, Britt. The vision alone is just scary. So I don't see it, and that's just Derrick Henry. But
Mm-hmm.
there's other backs out there who run physical as well.
Right.
There are receivers out there who are just as physical as some of these running backs. So for him to do that, and when you get on and you go to the offensive side of the ball, and you got these linebackers, like Fred Warner, going after this guy, man, and he's like a missile. So I don't see him going both ways full time. I don't care who drafts this guy. It could be I don't know
Mm-hmm.
who's the worst team right now. Is it the Panthers, Giants, whomever the case may be? But I just don't see any team in their right mind
Mm-hmm.
putting this guy both ways full time. Yeah, like Jay alluded to, you dial some packages. I think he'll most likely play. He wants to play offense. If he had to choose, I
Right.
believe he wants to play offense, which is fine. But if he wants to play offense, it's hard for him I don't think anybody's going to dial up any packages for him on defense. I think it'll be the other way around. If he'll be a full-time defensive back and then dial something, then they'll create some packages for him on offense. I think that might be the route to go if he wants to
Mm-hmm.
play both ways, to be honest with you. But full-time, absolutely not. I don't care how talented this guy is. And his size just doesn't dare. At least Charles Woodson had some size with him, but I don't think he
Right.
has the size to sustain that for a full 17 weeks of NFL football.
Yeah, and just to make this clear, because I agree with both you guys. We're not saying that it's not something he can't do. We're
Right,
just
right.
saying that just physicality and the toll that it could take on your body. I feel like
Yeah.
he's gonna. if he somehow figures out a way to do it, I feel like he's going to end up shortening his career much faster than what he expects. So, and it's nothing wrong just to choose one side. Either way, you're gonna get
No,
paid.
you're
That
gonna get right.
either way you're right. Either way, you're gonna get paid. So,
Mhm.
and me personally, I wouldn't mind him being a DB and then having, like K Walk said, some packages for the offensive side because boy, he comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
His the way he tracks the ball as a DB, that's what teams are looking for. It
Hmm.
really honestly is. Not saying he won't be a good receiver. I think he could be a great receiver as well. But his abilities at DB, in my opinion, is just they're superior right now, far and superior than on the other side of the ball at this moment right now. So, but go ahead, Jay. Did you have a
Yeah,
thought?
no, I was just gonna say, and also to that point, Britt, like thinking about it just from like a team standpoint, right? They're gonna want to
Mhm.
protect their investment. Like he's
Exactly.
Right.
gonna make a ton of money, right? So you're not gonna want to
Hmm.
have him in a situation where you're increasing the likelihood of this kid getting hurt, right? So that's another reason why I think it's gonna be one side or the other, and then maybe just a little appearance here or there, because
Right.
if you got this guy playing both ways, it's going to catch up to him. Now your prized possession isn't playing,
Right.
so I think they're going to want to protect their investment as well, and that's probably why they will limit him to one side of the ball.
Right. No, that makes sense. Two more questions pertaining to this, and then we'll move on.
Before you do that, Britt, can I just shout out my man K Sap from Simply Ball Dropping. I was chatting with him a little bit on the weekend about his Vikings, so I'm a believer now, and I see him all in the comments. So I just wanted to shout K Sap out real quick.
What's going on, K-Sab? Yeah, he gonna hit me up in my DMs talking about how you like them Vikings. I'm like, I'm not worried about your Vikings. Wait a minute here. Wait a minute. If you want the week 4, week 5, 4-0, take it. Take it. Take it. You can have it. All right. But no, they're doing good.
I'm
But
a
anyway,
believer, K Sap. I'm a
They
believer.
are. They are.
but Travis Hunter, going back to Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy. Is he a Heisman Trophy? Let me change that question. Do you top of the Heisman Trophy running right now at this moment? Anybody can take it.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, K
I
Walk.
think. Yeah, I think he is right now. I wish he was. I wish he wasn't so premature with the with the whole Desmond Howard pose, who I think is the greatest college football player to ever play the game. But that's just me. But no, all seriousness. Yeah, I think you have to put him there, especially with Colorado winning. Being 4-1 right now, that plays a big part of the Heisman. I think there's only a couple of Heisman, a few Heisman out there who actually won with a record with like 2 or 3 losses, in that particular season. So if they can continue to win, and obviously he can continue to play the way he's playing, I think it's his to lose without question. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with the team's success as opposed to his success, or just as equally, just as equal. I think he needs the same,
Mm-hmm.
continue to win, at least get a bowl game in. I don't know their chances. I don't have their schedule in front of me. I can look that up, but what their chances are of making the playoffs. So that's going to be interesting. If they can somehow sneak in there, which I think most likely won't happen, then I think it's definitely his. Without question. I know a lot of guys like Milgro is going to have something to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
Without question, but because he had an outstanding game last
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah.
But yeah, I think right now, if they were in New York, I think they still do it in New York. If they were at the Heisman ceremony, I think his name would be called.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. And then my next question or my last question pertaining to this, we've seen how they played this past weekend or the last, the first 4 weeks of the college football season. Shador Sanders has been playing very well. I think we will all say. And he is definitely seen as an NFL starting quarterback. My goodness, I couldn't even think of quarterback. Um, and one of the top draft candidates or draft players, prospects. Let me say this properly here.
Mhm.
Is he the number one quarterback to go in next year's draft? Anybody can take it. Do
I
you put him above? I think Carson Beck is supposed to be number one potentially right now.
Yeah, maybe.
Could he potentially jump Carson Beck for that number one overall spot?
so could he potentially? Absolutely, because I think
Mhm.
probably on a lot of people's boards, they're really close anyway. Like I don't think there's a
Yeah.
huge gap in people's minds between those two quarterbacks. And I also agree with K Walk. I think Jalen Milroe, his stock just continues
Mhm.
to skyrocket because he's throwing the football really well, and we all
Yeah.
can see what he can do with his legs. So I
Right.
think his stock is climbing as well. But yeah, Britt, I think Shador is going to be maybe like either the first or second quarterback to come off the board. I definitely think
Mhm.
he will be a top 10 draft pick. The thing that might hurt him a little bit, and this is obviously going to depend on how they play. If they start losing games and the offensive line can't protect him
Yeah.
as the
Mhm.
competition gets a little bit better, I think that could hurt his stock maybe a little bit. But when you can protect Shador, he will absolutely light you up. Like his
What's
Mhm.
accuracy, he can make every single throw, his intelligence, knowing where to go with the football. To me, all of that is top notch. The only thing that gets a little shaky with him is when he's not protected and then he's back there running for his life sometimes. But if you can protect him, he will absolutely light you up. And if you think about it, like if he was playing behind Alabama's offensive line, or if he was playing behind
what's
Georgia's offensive line,
exactly.
like it might not even be a conversation about who the best QB in the country is. So I really think he's that good.
So my next question to that, and K Walk, I guess you could kind of answer this one, for based off what Jay said. The scouts for the NFL, won't they take that in consideration, being that they understand that his offensive line is not the best
Yeah,
offensive line
absolutely.
in college football, and just understand his traits and his abilities? What do you say?
Oh, absolutely, Britt. They're going to look at everything. They're going to look at
Mhm.
what he had for dinner, the night before, what he had for breakfast, on his best games, what he had for breakfast, his worth. They're going to look at everything, Britt. So absolutely, without question, they're going to look at that and see, and like they're going to say things like Jay just mentioned, like put him behind an offensive line, a pro like offensive
Mhm.
line like Alabama or Georgia. Would he perform? Just as well as Milrow, or if not better, or Carson Beck, as well in this case. But yeah, they're definitely going to factor all that into it, Brick, because they do factor everything into it. And if he can perform by running for his life, imagine what kind of, like Jay said, what type of player he would be, or quarterback. I just don't want to call him a player,
Mhm.
a quarterback, because we black quarterbacks, I should say, get that knock that if they're running around too much, they're just running backs, under, taking the ball from under center. So, if he could just continue to stay in that pocket and perform well, then, yeah, a lot of that's going to play into it. And a lot of people are going to be like, okay, he's the real deal. And I think he is the real
Mm.
deal, to be honest with
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both these young men are the real deal. They got some talent on this
you.
team, and they could put it all together. It's going to be incredible. The hope is that Coach Prime, or Coach Deion Sanders, he ends up staying long enough to show what he's capable of doing as well.
Yeah.
Because I think if he stays long enough, we'll be looking at Colorado much differently than what we see him now. So, last question. I know I was supposed to end at the last two, but they keep popping up in my head. And
Yeah,
yes,
you
guys, a lot of my questions just come like I'm a rapper from the top of my head. Um, are they still underdogs? A lot of people were doubting this team. A lot of people were criticizing Coach Prime, and a lot of the antics going on with the team, and they just don't have it. And we heard all the criticism. We're well aware of all of the criticism. But last year they did start off 3-0, I believe, and then they kind of just fumbled.
yeah.
They went down quick. This year it feels a little different. It feels a lot different. At least in my opinion, it feels different. They are 4-1 right now. Would you still consider them an underdog, or are they on everybody's radar? I mean, they always been on people's radar, but they kind of been considered an underdog. What do you guys say to that? Anybody can answer.
Well,
Gotcha.
I think to your point, Britt, the excitement around this program, they're going to be on everyone's radar, right? No one's going to
Right.
sort of overlook them. As far as underdogs, I do think there's a couple of games that they have coming up. I think their next game is against number 20, Kansas State. I definitely think that's a game that most people probably think they won't win.
Mm-hmm.
I know they play number 18, Utah, a few weeks after that. I think that's another game where people would probably say that they're the underdog in. But other than that, I think they have a decent shot at winning a bunch of games, right? So I think, are they still the underdogs? Maybe in a couple scenarios, but I think a good bit of their schedule, they're probably going to be seen as maybe eye to eye with some of the
Right.
opponents that they're going to face. So I definitely think the perception around Colorado from being all hype and no substance, I think that perception is definitely starting to change.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I think the whole, it's Coach Prime, he draws in all the attention and,
Yeah.
don't worry about them too much on the field because they're not going to do much. I think that's going to change. Like you said, that has changed or is going to change extremely quick because the way they played the last couple of games has been very impressive, in my opinion. And then their weakest links have turned it around this season compared to last season, and that was in the trenches. They're playing much better within the trenches, and like you guys alluded to earlier, the coaching is much better. They did get some additional talent, some much better talent, but that coaching made a world of a difference. So you guys made a valid point. K-Walk, any thoughts on Colorado being still considered the underdogs or?
Yeah. I just wanted to that's always Coach Baker. I was just talking to. He's going to come on about 8 o'clock, just to give us a
Okay.
little time. Okay, so to give us a heads up there. He's going to be in his car, so he said he's leaving practice. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. But I agree with everything. I heard everything Jay said, and I'm looking at the schedule, and I think you don't look at them as underdogs anymore. So I think the schedule
Hmm.
kind of favors them if
Yeah.
maybe
It's
different. I mean, you
winnable.
got you got Kansas State there, which is their next game, which they have a bye
Hmm.
before then, so they have time to prepare for that particular game. Kansas State, they're pretty fast, so we'll see how they perform in that. And then they got Utah down the road. We don't know what their quarterbacks there. Utah's quarterback, if he's going to be be because he's been
Yep.
in and out and hurt and not
And
consistently
they don't
available
win when
throughout.
he doesn't play.
And then he
So
does exactly. Jake stole my thunder there. And if he doesn't, he's not in there. They're a completely different team. And then
Right.
you have other teams that, like Jay said, they're very winnable. So looking at the schedule, I don't think you look at them as underdogs anymore. I think you have to look at them as favorites. I think the schedule
Hmm.
puts them in a bowl game, and if they do it the right way, they can beat either Kansas State or Utah, and then run the table with the other teams. I think we'll see a Colorado team in the playoffs. So I don't think you can chalk them up as underdogs anymore, especially after the performance that they had not only against UCF but against Baylor
Hmm.
as well. So yeah, chalk them up as very favorites. You can put them in as favorites in a lot of these games. On no more
yeah.
underdog title for them.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. I think they're on a bye. Are they on a bye this week? They might
Yeah.
be on a bye
Yeah.
They're
this
on the bye
week.
Yeah.
this week.
They're on a
Yeah.
bye.
Mhm.
And then they come back next week. So it's gonna be interesting how they play off of the bye. So I'm gonna also shout out Mel, Man Down Sports. What's going on, Mel? He said I'm super impressed by Shador and Travis.
Yep.
I think all of us are here as well. We knew the talent that they had, but boy, I think we all agree they are definitely ready to go into the NFL. Absolutely. And by the way, Mel, I don't want to hear none of your crap on Friday about no
No.
tush push or brotherly shove. Leave me I ain't hear it. I don't want to hear it. All right, guys, let's move on. I want to get into some NBA, and I know the news was announced over the weekends, but as you guys know, we come on this show on Tuesdays. And it's the I guess the biggest news of the NBA so far this off season, right? And that's Carl Anthony Towns getting traded to the New York Knickerbockers in exchange for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and I think also a first round pick via the Detroit Lions. I was gonna say Detroit Lions. Good lord, Detroit Pistons. Um, what are your thoughts on this trade? How do you think it impacts both teams? I guess you could say. K Walk, I'm gonna start with you on this one.
Well, for the Knicks, I know the Knicks are excited. Knicks fans are excited because they got Cat,
Mhm.
but I don't think that it makes them any better or it makes them any worse. I because if they would have kept him, DiVincenzo, I think that then you can make some noise there. But I think that player
Yeah.
going to Minnesota changes things. I think it's an even trade, to be honest with you. And one of the funniest things I've seen, how you got those automated things where the guys are talking, and they it was Jalen Brunson going in and say, "Hey, we got Cat now." And we're like, so they go to the Knicks. I mean, they go to the Sixers. It's like, so we got Paul George. I'm like, oh well. Then they go to the Celtics. Like, so what? He's soft as Scotty. He's soft as tissue or whatever. Actually, it was funny as heck to me because the whole thing was like, no one's like, why is no one worried about Cat coming to us? Why no one's scared?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
he's just as that. He's soft and
Mhm.
you really didn't get anything big there. Yeah, the name is there, and he changed and you added him to that team, but losing DiVincenzo, I think is not going to make them better. It doesn't make them. I think they're slightly worse, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I think the Timberwolves got better with the trade. If you had to grade them and said who won the trade, I'm going to say the Timberwolves won the trade because of they got DiVincenzo.
You know what, Jay? I'm gonna come to you first. What are your thoughts before I
Okay.
answer?
Okay.
Because I'm still a little back and forth with it. I'm still back and forth with it.
To be honest, I feel like I'm in line with K Walk on this one. Like
Mhm.
when I heard about it, I said, okay, like they got Cat, very good player, but is he the guy that's going to make the difference between you like getting over the hump and winning the
Right.
championship? I just don't think so. I really don't. And like so much of New York is toughness and personality. Like I don't know
Mhm.
if he fits the city. Like I really don't.
Right.
So I think that's going to be a very
Soft.
interesting dynamic, especially if he doesn't play well and they start getting on him and that New York media is on his back. Like how's he going to respond to that if things don't go
Mhm.
great out of the gate? And then I also agree with K Walk's point about DiVincenzo. Like when they let him go, I was like, wow, because I think he made a lot of plays for the Knicks,
Yeah.
did a
Mhm.
lot of the dirty work that other people weren't willing to do. So
Yeah.
I do think that's a big loss for them. Look, I understand why they did it. Julius Randle, like before he got hurt, he was the guy. We now
Mhm.
know that that's Brunson's team, so they probably felt like they needed to do something. But I actually think when you put Randall in Minnesota alongside Ant Edwards and you've got those personalities and that fearlessness. I agree with
Yep.
you, K Walk. I think Minnesota got better, and I don't think New York has enough to get them over the hump in the East. So, look, I get why you did it, but I don't think that's the answer to their championship question.
No,
Yeah.
that's how I
But
know that the Timberwolves won the trade because I forgot to mention Julius Randle. Oops. Oh yeah, he
uh,
was part of the trade too,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
yeah. I'm look. Um, I like Cat, and I think I'm torn because I do like Cat. I like Carl Anthony Towns. I think offensively he could have these explosion games out of
Yeah.
nowhere, but then there's times where he kind of disappears. And don't talk to me about defensive side. He to me he doesn't do much defensively at all. And you got to go up against Joel Embiid. You got to go against Celtics, and you're going to need defense to go up against these teams. And I know I'm missing some other teams, of course, and that they have to go up against, but just in your division alone, those two. I just felt like I agree with you guys. I felt like the other two guys and Randall and DiVincenzo and the center Isaiah Harkenstein that they decided to let walk. They had a
Yeah.
level of toughness that Cat just doesn't have. He doesn't provide these things to your team, and you're going to need that. You're going to need rebounding. Does Cat rebound? I don't. Does he? Does he rebound like that? I don't know if
Yeah.
he's rebounds like that. I know he's a fantastic. He could be a fantastic big that plays out on the perimeter. He's primarily a perimeter type player. He can come down every so often in a post and have some post moves, depending on who he's going up against. It all depends on who he's going up against. Um, but when you're talking about, you got to go against a Joel Embiid when he's healthy. Good luck with that, because I think Joel Embiid averages 29, 30 points against Cat alone. He averages a double double against Cat.
Mhm.
So um I don't know if I like the move. I mean, me personally, I like the move because I'm a Sixers fan. So yes, me personally, I like the move. But for New York and how this fan base is, and because they're so similar to a Philadelphia fan base, I don't know if I like that move for the fan base. I don't know. I think they're excited because they see all the scoring right now. They see, that's I think it was a 60-point, 70-point game that he dropped last year. That's what they're seeing. But every day on your team, you're going to see this guy every day. He may create some frustrations. But I'm not going to say too much because he is a fellow Eagles fan. I just feel like New York just went out and got all Philadelphia fans to put on his. Like I don't. Brunson's an Eagles fan, and I think they're all Eagles and Sixers fans outside of Cat. I don't think he's a Sixers fan. He's definitely an Eagles fan. Don't have a clue. So they're going to be in Philadelphia the majority of the time. That's going to be interesting how that goes. But we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. It's going to be interesting. I know we got a comment right now. Man Down Sports said there were similar questions about Porzingis when Boston picked him up and he helped them win a ring.
No, he didn't.
Not for me. I didn't have softness questions about Porzingis. I had health issues about Porzingis. Mentally, I think Porzingis is tougher, in my opinion, than Cat. That's just me. I could be wrong, but me, when I watch Porzingis, I think he's a much tougher mentally type of player than Cat. Cat's going to get a little bullied down there, and he's going to get frustrated real quick. But I didn't come
available though. Cat's more available than Porzingis. Porzingis, didn't he miss that? What would be the last half of the playoffs?
Right. He had a health
for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. I mean,
he has a health issue.
Yeah. That's why I laughed when he said that he helped the Celtics win a championship. No, he didn't. Unless he was the biggest cheerleader and he helped them, he got them motivated and by cheering and things of that nature. But on the court stuff, you missed me with that.
And two, like I think the thing is with Cat, right? Like we all think Cat's a good player, right? Like he obviously he's a super skilled big man. But like if we were just saying, do you think this puts them ahead of Boston? I would say no. Like, are they better than Philly? I mean, like, you know what I mean? So I don't know that this move really gets them where they want to go. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe they'll prove us all wrong here, but I just don't see it.
I think depth is going to be a major issue, especially with how Tibbs runs that team.
Into the ground.
He will wear that team into the ground. He's been doing it for years. So it's going to be interesting. And they do have some injury type prone players, as talented as all their players are, a lot of them get injured. I know very well, not only because they're right up 95, is it 295, 95, whatever, however you get to New York. Joel Embiid is an injury prone player. So is Jalen Brunson. So is OG Anunoby. So I can keep going on. And he runs his players into a ground. So your depth is very, very important. And I think they got rid of that depth. So, and the one thing, man down. Right. And the one thing, man down, because he said something else. Boston had depth. They had a lot of it. So that helps you also win your games. But he also came back and said Porzingis won game 1 by himself.
Okay.
I don't know if you could win it by yourself, but yes, he did make a nice contribution. And then what happened? I don't remember what happened.
Right. Yeah, you know what happened. He got hurt.
I was gonna say I don't remember what happened after that. But you guys kind of answered my next question. Does this make them because a lot of people, when I was listening to on the radio or the television, they were saying that they now have probably the best. They have the best top 5 starting 5 in the league. Do you guys agree or disagree with that? Anybody could take it.
In the league, they said? In the entire league? No, I mean, I guess it's hard to just kind of think about every team off the top of your head, but my initial reaction would be no. I don't think this gives them the best starting 5 in the league. I would say no to that.
Is it a best starting 5 than Boston because they are the champs, the defending champs?
I don't think so. Because you're talking about Tatum, obviously, Brown. Porzingis starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Um,
there White? That
is Al
Yep.
Horford still a
Yeah.
starter?
Al
yeah.
Horford's still there. Derek White
And
is
Derek
is
White.
there.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. The thing about Boston is like player for player, you might look at the Knicks and say these guys might individually be better players, but in terms of like the fit as a team, like I think Boston has the better fit as a team because everybody
Yeah.
knows their roles. Like they know that those two guys are their mega stars and they're gonna do the brunt of the work, and everybody else kind of has their role. Are the Knicks going to be able to figure that out? So I wouldn't say that. I would take Boston's starting five over the Knicks.
Okay, what?
I don't know. I think I might give a slight edge to the Knicks, but we talked about one thing that's going to be different, and that's depth. And I don't think New York has that. So on paper, you probably give them a slight edge because we can't even name the fifth starter for Boston. Not saying that that fifth starter is is legit, but since we can't name them, I'm gonna have to give it to the Knicks. Just the starting five, but overall that depth and Jay mentioned it as well. Just everyone knowing their role and doing their part. I think that's a difference as well because sometimes you see Jalen Brunson just run himself into the ground like he did in the playoffs. I know he had to do it because a lot of other guys were hurt, but I'll give the slight edge to starting five to the Knicks. I will give it
How
to
we,
them.
well, I don't know because that fifth starter that we somehow forgotten is I think it's because more football season than it is basketball season. That's Drew Holiday. We ain't forgetting about Drew Holiday, y'all.
I
Yeah,
thought he came
Can't
up to.
forget it.
Let me think.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
No,
yeah.
Drew Holiday is
That's
the
a tough
starter.
starting
So
five. That's a good
right.
five.
That's a great
Uh,
defensive five right there. And I love. Don't get me wrong. Last year, I love how the Knicks played together, and you throw in Cat in that they played hard because Tibbs always has his teams playing hard. Um, but so does Boston. Boston plays very hard as well. I'm still going to give the advantage to Boston. I just think that chemistry is like no other. I don't know how they're just way above that daggone second apron, and they're still able to have the team that they have now. Um, but you got to give it to until I see one of those players decline, but it probably won't happen anytime soon outside of Al Horford because they're all under the age of 28 years old. um, oh wait, Drew might be a little older. I don't know how old Drew Holiday is. I know he's been in the league for a little bit. Um, this team is not going anywhere anytime soon. Like they're just not. So it's going to be interesting. I like the Knicks. I have to give them credit. I like them, but I don't like them, of course. I like the talent that they have. They have a couple of my people that I wanted on my team, and that's OG and Mikal Bridges. And those are two decent. They're two great two-way players for the most part, as long as they stay healthy. I still have to give the edge to Boston, though. It's just something about Boston I just don't see a lot of teams beating even this year. And we may have to look into the Western Conference to see if anybody can take them out. But we'll see. Every year is different. Any final thoughts on this fantastic gold trade? I don't know what the heck I just said. This fantastic trade with the cat
I don't
going
know. I
into
might have to
New York.
looking at this. Yeah, looking at this Knicks team, man. Looking at this Knicks team. That front court is going to be
Oh,
it's
it's
solid.
crazy.
It's solid,
Yeah, because
man.
you
To
got
be honest with you, you got
Brunson
Jalen Brunson
and
and
who's that too?
uh, yeah, Brunson and
Is
McBride.
it
McBride is their projected starter there. Miles McBride is their projected
over?
starter, and then their small forward OG. I forgot they traded for
Mhm.
Miles Bridges. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm gonna get a
yeah.
slight edge. I'm gonna stay with the Knicks here. I'm gonna get a slight edge to the Knicks as far as just the starting five
So, all right. So
there.
you got Brunson, right? You got who's
Yeah.
there too? Uh uh is it McBride or is it going to be? I know Josh Hart's still on the
McBride, yeah,
team,
that's
right?
that's what they have right now. Well, no, that's what they
So
have right now. Just
Josh,
looking at their projected starting five. McBride,
so it's going
McBride
to
is
be
their starting
okay.
five.
So
Miles
one
McBride,
Brunson, two Miles McBride, three. I'm assuming it's going to be Mikal Bridges. Four should be
OG. Well, they have
OG
OG.
and Anobly, and then five is going to be Cat, right? I mean, it's
Cat,
positionless
yeah, yeah,
basketball, but I'm
yeah,
still putting them in position. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
when
yeah.
you come off
Exactly,
the
exactly.
bench, so that means if you come off the bench, you still have Josh Hart, right? And then you still have Precious Akua, who's still there. And then after that, I'm not sure after that.
Yeah, I'm
So
just
that's
talking
where
about
the leaves question
projected
marks.
starting five. Yeah, I'll give the
Hmm.
nod to the Knicks just for the projected starting five. Yeah.
I mean, playoff time, that might not be bad because, the
Mhm.
depth may not play too often around playoff time. So,
Yeah.
but how will your body be by the time you get to that? So
Right.
I think that's going to be the question because you only really playoff time. You have what, 8-man rotation, max 9, depending on who the team is. So,
Yeah.
as long as everybody is healthy, so it might not be a bad situation. But I still like Boston for some reason. Can't stand them, but I'm gonna give them the edge right now. It's probably just because they're the defending champs. All right. Any word from Mr. Baker, Brian Baker, before we
Yeah, he said he's going to be on at
wrap
8. I told him 8. I told him 8. So any moment now. Just looking at that.
Okay, any moment. All right, guys. So I'm gonna probably just pause it there until I guess he comes on, and let's just a little bit longer. Let me see what I could pop up. Here we go. You know what? Let's go into something so we could talk about this. We're gonna go back into the NFL real fast before he comes on. If he comes in, he just interrupts me. It's called "Is It Time to Bench?"
Okay.
Is it time to bench? And let me say that again. That's bench. That's what I said. Bench. Okay. And this is quarterbacks that are currently playing right now. Is it time to say, you know what? I'm tired of you. It's time for you to sit down and let's see where if we need to let's see if this backup QB can take us in a different direction. First player, the main guy. You already know who I'm starting with here, and that's quarterback Deshaun Watson. Is it time to bench this man? Anybody could take it.
Go ahead, K
Um,
Rock.
yeah, no, it's hard for me to say that because who's behind him? Jameis Winston, I think it is. Jameis Winston's their backup, if I'm not mistaken. No, I just think that because what happens is when you have a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, who is a mobile quarterback, they
Mhm.
just don't have their starting tackles, man. And I don't care who you are, what quarterback you are. If you don't have your starting two tackles, then your offensive line, I mean your protection is going to be it's going to be limited at best. And I know
Mhm.
he got into it with one of the linemen this past Sunday because they couldn't hold up protection, even with some quick routes and even that quick game they can't hold up protection. 3-step drop. He's still picking himself up off the ground, and that's just like you might as well just not have anyone in there. But I think we got our
Yeah.
guest in there now. Okay. I'm gonna bring him in, Brett.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's bring them in. All right, guys. So, um, we have former NFL coach, right? Defensive. I believe he was a defensive line coach as well as
Mhm.
college um defensive coach as well. Mr. Brian Baker. We're gonna bring him in right now.
Hey,
How
how's
you doing,
everybody?
Coach? Good
How's
yourself?
everybody? Good. And
We're
sorry, I'm not in a more stable situation. I've been on the road all day
All right.
driving.
Well, we
But
appreciate your
anyway,
time. We ain't gonna keep you too long, Coach, but we appreciate your time.
my pleasure.
Yeah,
All right.
Coach. It,
Go ahead.
it,
Go ahead,
it,
Jay.
it's good to have you. We appreciate you stopping by. Just kind of taking a look at your resume. I mean, you've been around the game for a long time, like going back to when you played at Maryland and to coaching all over the NFL, coaching in college. You've done a little bit of everything. The first question I want to ask you, because you've obviously you've seen the game evolve over the years, has there been any change to the game that you say, I like this change, this is good for football? And then also, what about a change where you say, I don't think I like this. It's kind of taken away from the game that I used to know.
Well, the thing that certainly is the top of the list that's better is the concern for the players. So the concussion
Mhm.
protocols and all of those things, no question that's better because the game was, is, and will always be, about the players. And so player safety, I think, is much more premium now than it ever was. Heck, when I played, what they call concussions. Now we used to say you got your bell rung,
Digger,
you
yeah,
you
Digger's
shake it off,
right.
and you didn't even want to admit it, right? I
Right.
mean, I remember probably the hardest hit I ever, I want to say delivered, but maybe I took it. Uh, I told the guy next to me, "Hey man, just tell me which side to line up on. I'll be right. I'll be okay after the
Wow.
next play."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. So yeah. So things like that, no question, is better for the players, and I think that's the top of it. The other thing I think is, really more style for me, and probably most people are a little different. I think football has gotten to be a little too much wide open spread, and all that stuff, and a lot more pass than run. The game that I fell in love with was a lot more physical game, and I thought that's the game, and then again, I'm talking, heck, my heroes growing up were Dick Buckus and Bubba Smith and Joe Green and those guys. So football was kind of different, when I was growing up. But that's the game I fell in love with, and it's quite different now. So that's a little bit of a, you say, hey, coach, you talk about player safety, but yet you want to go back to when everybody was killing everybody. Yeah, that's kind of
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, understandable, understandable for sure. Kind of looking over your path, I noticed that I think it was 2019. You spent some time at Alabama
Hmm.
with Coach Nick Saban, who I think a lot of people regard as, if not the greatest, one of the greatest college football coaches ever. Was there anything about him that really stood out to you, or anything about him that made him great?
Yeah, and that's a great question. When I went to Alabama really for one reason, and that was to kind of look behind the curtain, you know what I mean, and see what made the Wizard, you know, so great. And I'm fortunate in that I went so late in my career because I kind of already had a feel for things that work and things that didn't work. And so to see, to be in that environment where excellence was the only thing that mattered, and the process towards excellence was the only thing that mattered. Coach Saban never really talked about wins and losses. He always talked about the process, and then that relentless pursuit. I mean, I've never been around somebody who was so focused on the process. Everybody talks about that, and they talk about culture and all of that. I mean, there it was really a culture, and that culture was all about excellence. I mean, we would beat a team by 30 or whatever it was, 35. I mean, we'd kill somebody, and then the next meeting would be the same meeting we had when we played LSU. Okay, did we get our guys to play to the best of their ability? And
Yeah.
that's really all he cared about. So I've been around a lot of great coaches.
Yeah,
Bobby Ross, and is the first one of the great ones that I've been around, and played for Jerry Claiborne. Two Hall of Fame coaches. Um, so I've been around some great coaches, but I haven't been around anybody that was so consistently pursuing excellence. That's all I cared about.
yeah, Coach. I again, thank you so much for joining us. And I know in your playing days, you was an outside linebacker at the University of Maryland. You played with Boomer Esiason, you played with Frank Reich, those guys. But you did mention, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit because I wanted to ask you about Coach Ross, Bobby Ross, and you were there. You were on his staff with San Diego, the Chargers. Am I correct? Were you on the staff there?
Well, I was on his staff at the University of Maryland. That's where I started.
Okay.
He got me started in coaching, so I was there as a graduate assistant coach. Actually,
Okay.
as a student coach, because I played, I didn't get redshirt, so I played my first 4 years, and I was one of those guys that was kind of a good college player, but that I knew I wasn't going to the NFL. So he
Gotcha.
gave me an opportunity as I was finishing to be a student coach my last semester there, and then asked me
Okay.
to stay on as a graduate assistant coach. So I was there with him there for 2 years, and then
Okay.
I went to Georgia Tech, and we were
Okay.
together for 5 years. That's where we were together and won a national championship. And then he went to San Diego, I stayed, and then I later joined him in
Gotcha.
San Diego. So he got me into the league.
Okay. Now I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, with Saban, but what's some of the positive things or the biggest things you take away from, being on Coach Ross's staff?
Details. And they both
Hmm.
were very detail oriented, and I think that's one of the traits that it takes to win. I mean, you got to dot the I and cross the T's, and detail and preparation was Coach Ross was all about. I mean, he would have a pad that he would take to practice. Us coaches call it the yellow pad, and we never wanted to be on the yellow pad that next meeting because he would want he would be writing down, okay, hey, here are the drills that you were doing. What's the application? And as a young coach, he taught me how to coach. And he
Mhm.
taught
Mhm.
me about things like that, the application of drills, the importance of the precision, the again, as I mentioned, the attention to detail, things like verbiage, words matter. If we were having a term, how does it relate to another term to make it easy to teach to the players? So, a lot of those details that I still use, and when I clinic and have an opportunity to talk to coaches, I still share those ideas. And, those were, things that I learned 40 years ago.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, and coach, obviously you've kind of highlighted some of the things that you've taken away from the coaches you've been around, but obviously someone that's been in the game as long as you have, you've had the opportunity to coach a bunch of really great football players. And one of the things I'm always kind of curious about from a coach's standpoint is what separates the good player from the great player. Is it talent? Is it work ethic? Is it intelligence? Like, is there sort of a common thread that maybe you've picked up on along the years that separates that great player from everyone else?
Dude, I love that question. that is a
He stole it.
that
He
is a
stole it.
great
He knew what he
question.
was doing.
And I smiled when I heard it. I was fortunate just this past Sunday. Julius Peppers got recognized at a Panthers game for being
Mhm.
enshrined in Canton this last in August, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of that. He, invited me to the ceremony. It was my first time. It was one of the silver linings about being out this year. I've had a couple of players that I've coached going into the Hall of Fame, but this was the first time I had a chance to attend. So I, talked to Julius then, and we spent time together then, and then at the game. But at the game, there were also several of the other defensive linemen that I coached. So we got into that conversation actually, and across the board, it was all about the work, because Julius was a phenomenal athlete. Like,
Yeah, yes. Basketball
I
skill.
can't, yeah, I can't put, can't emphasize that word enough. Certainly the most athletic 270-pound plus guy I've ever been around. And when I coached him, he was like 293. So, I mean,
Wow.
huge, but he moved around like he was 240. I mean, just
Right.
phenomenal athlete. But the thing that made him special was his work how
Mhm.
hard he worked. I mean, he practiced harder than anybody else. I mean, I always had to tell him whoa, never had to tell him go. Right. So I mean, he was that way. And then I shared a story with young players. The very first time I met DeMarcus Ware when I was coaching for the Cowboys, the very first time we met. And both of these guys are tremendously humble, right? Tremendously humble. So when Coach Garrett introduced me to DeMarcus, of course, everybody in the world knew, at least the football world knew who he was. But he introduced himself.
Mhm.
Hey, coach, I'm DeMarcus Ware. And I'm like, dude, I know who you are. You
Right.
know. And then while he was still holding my hand in the handshake, he said, Coach, I know you've studied me. How can you make me better? And I mean, dude, this
Mhm.
was like the
Nice.
first 30 seconds of the conversation.
Yeah.
And and I appreciated both of those guys not only from what I learned from them being players and being around them, but also the challenge, because as a coach you want to maximize their ability, and particularly when you get with guys who want to be coached. So not only did these guys have a tremendous work ethic, they both obviously were tremendously gifted, but I'll tell anybody, and again we were chopping it up, a bunch of players and I, just this past Sunday, it was about wanting to get better, working so hard to get better, wanting to be coached, never thinking they had arrived. And I was blessed to have been around both of those guys when they actually had arrived. And then I was fortunate enough to be around another guy. I've been really blessed in my career, but the appreciation certainly came as I got older. So I was in the league a while, and then I got a chance to coach Leroy Glover, who's on the Ring of
Oh
Honor
wow.
right
Mhm.
now at New
Yeah.
Orleans Saints, and
Mhm.
Glove should be a Hall of Famer. I don't know why he's
Yeah.
not, but he should be one. And the very first time we got out on the field, again, he's another one. I was like, Glove, man, I love the leadership, and I love the way you're setting an example for these young guys, because we had a really young group. And I said, I love it, man, but hey, slow down. Let's, we got a long way to go, and I just want you to get yourself ready for these Sundays. And this was OTAs. This was like spring ball. He said,
Mhm.
Coach, I've been cut once in my life. I'll never be never be cut again. Then this was after 6 7 years
Yeah.
of making Pro Bowls and being an All Pro, and certainly recognized as one of the best interior players in the game. And so the work ethic, and I appreciate the question, but I apologize for being so long winded. The work ethic, the appreciation for the game, and then the
Mhm.
desire to be the best that they can be. The demand that they put on their coaches to help them get better. And I was fortunate in that they thought enough of me that they actually thought I helped them a little bit, which I don't know how much that actually happened, but I certainly learned a lot from them, and those things are the things that I would attribute to the difference between talent and greatness.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. K Walk, you got
Um.
you got anything else? Or
You
Britt?
stole my second question, Jay.
Okay.
Yeah, you stole my question, man. So that's cool. I appreciate it, man. But
I
I'm glad
got
it was answered. I'm glad it was asked and answered at the same time. Go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. Being that you did you coached on both levels, the collegiate level as well as the professional level. How does coaching college athletes differ from coaching in the NFL? Pertaining to like mindset and development.
Well, where I shared those stories about those veteran guys who,
Mm-hmm.
who are all time greats in my mind. Um, the college guys, where those guys had that, okay, I had to, as a college coach, instill that in the other guys. So
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough to have Montez Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, guys who are first round picks and are playing really well in the NFL right
Yes.
now. I had them as young
Yep.
players, young collegiates.
Mm-hmm.
So, to instill that importance of, hey guys, it's more than just talent. And by that time I'd already come in the league. I'd come to them after being in the league. So I had their ear. I'd coached Kevin Williams and Leroy Glover and, Julius Peppers
Mm-hmm.
and DeMarcus Ware. So when I got to Mississippi State, I certainly had their attention. But they didn't know how to be great. They were talented guys. So I was able to instill that in them a little bit. But the good thing is they came with that. They came with a willingness
Right.
to work. They came with a willingness to learn, but they didn't know exactly how good they could be. You know what I mean? So having that perspective with my experience at that point and instilling that in them was something that I took a tremendous amount of pride and pleasure in. Certainly at that point in my career. When I was younger, didn't have as much knowledge. I was fortunate enough to coach an All-American back then too, Marco Coleman, and it was different. I just kind of, just poured everything I had in him. But as I look back in retrospect, I didn't have as much because I just wasn't as old, didn't have as much experience. But I did always appreciate, because of what I've learned from Coach Ross, get guys to work as hard as they can work. Make sure you have their
Mm-hmm.
attention. Find a way to teach them, because everybody doesn't learn the same way. So the younger players benefited from what I've learned from the coaches that I was with. I mentioned Coach Ross, but George O'Leary was our defensive coordinator, and George obviously has a statue
Yeah.
outside of Central Florida, and acknowledged as one of the great ones at Georgia Tech. And I learned a lot from him being his coordinator, Georgia O'Leary's coordinator, before I went to the NFL. And so, Ralph Regent, another great coach who was all ACC coach of the year as a head coach at University of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was around some really good guys and learned from them. And I was able to pour that into players when I was a young coach. And then as I got older, obviously, I became the benefactor of those experiences, and I poured those into guys. So I think that's the biggest thing. They don't know. And then the thing that I think, and I have a feeling that's probably not the answer you were looking for, but that's my reality. But I do think this. I think it's going to be harder to do that now,
Mm-hmm.
because those guys weren't getting paid.
Right.
Those guys,
Right.
particularly for the big gap. Now, Jeffrey and Montez, Jeffrey was very highly recruited, 5-star type guy. Montez was not very highly recruited. But they both, they were Power Five players, so they both were afforded a degree of attention. Certainly more so than like a Marco Coleman got back in the day, just because recruiting wasn't the same back in the,
Right.
back in the 80s and early 90s as they were later on, as they are now. So you kind of you almost have to, a phrase we use now, de-recruit guys to
Mm-hmm.
open them up to being coached. And I think that's going to be harder now when you get guys who are making more money than some of the coaches.
Yeah.
Now, now
Right.
again, as a professional coach, you're used to that, right? Because everybody you coach is
Right.
making more money than we are. But certainly you wouldn't expect that in college, and in professional ranks, obviously guys understand the professionalism of what they have to do. Collegiately, they just excited that they get some money to be able to go buy some bling or whatever or whatever they're going to do. So, uh,
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's going to be a problem. Uh, Having to get an 17, 18, 19-year old, kid who's all of a sudden now for the first time in his life being around, six figures, um, to say, hey man, be quiet and listen. Okay. You
Right.
don't have all
Hmm.
the answers. You don't
Right,
have
right.
all the answers. Matter of fact, you probably have very few. All
Right.
right. But if we go on this thing together, all right, we have a chance to maximize your ability. So
Yeah.
so having that relationship with guys, um, having the trust element with them, and that's always been important. But I think it's really premium now.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll give you one more, coach, and then we'll let you get out of here. I like to ask people this, and it might be difficult for you to pinpoint given the amount of time that you've spent in the game. But do you have a favorite football memory, like when you just look back and kind of take it all in? Is there any one or two memories that really stand out for you?
Well, I tell you, the top of my head when you asked that question, it's funny no one has ever asked me that before. Probably, being on the field at the Citrus Bowl after beating Nebraska and ultimately winning the national championship. We finished an undefeated season, and that was really exciting. Certainly, a team that was not even preseason ranked in the top 30 to go on in 1990 and become co-national champs and with a Colorado team that had been very, highly ranked early in the season, and
Yeah.
they actually lost again.
Right.
It shouldn't have been split. I still say that, but we got the, but we got the crystal ball, the crystal football, as the coaches award that year. So we kind of, recognized as national champions and nationally. So that was really gratifying. And then the very first time we made the playoffs, I was at the Detroit Lions, and we had a chance to go to the playoffs, and unfortunately lost to Tampa Bay. Gave them their first win ever in the playoffs. Coach Dungy was the head coach then at Tampa. But just making the playoffs was really exciting. First time in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
Nice. This is the last
I
question,
I, I
Coach. I'm
feel
gonna let him go, Britt. Oh, I'm sorry, because I
no.
want
I
to get
was.
this
I
question
just
in.
had a
Go ahead, go ahead.
comment. I was
Okay.
just gonna say I feel you with the Tampa Bay. I'm an Eagles fan, and they just beat us
Oh
constantly. So
yeah, yeah,
I don't know what to
yeah,
do about it.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
understand that
Our
one.
game
Okay.
was
Go ahead,
our
Kayla.
game was a little closer as I remember, but I got you. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Shots fired.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Very
Coach. So
intentional.
being that you've been around football for so long and you've been doing so many different things. I know right now you're retired, but I know it's hard
In
to
in
walk away from games.
quotations.
In quotation, that's why I put them up for you, Coach. That's why I put
Yeah,
them
there
up
you
for you.
go.
So,
Yeah.
with that being said, Coach, who's your? I mean, what are you doing right now to stay involved again? Stay involved in the game, stay around the game to keep that itch scratched, if you will.
Well, I'm actually volunteering at a local high school, a really good school. They've won state championship the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years. Providence Day School in Charlotte, North
Okay.
Carolina, and they've got a couple of players that are being recruited. So getting a chance to be around those guys and kind of letting them know now, hey guys, things that I see in practice, this isn't going to fly
Hmm.
if you want to be a good player in college,
Yeah.
and then hey, make sure that you understand that this is just the start, and then try to pour into them the things that they're going to need to have a good finish. That's kind of cool. I haven't coached high school football, um, a long, long time. There was one time in my career I volunteered again as I was in between jobs, but that was a really small school, little Christian school in Texas, little small school. This is real high school football that I'm with now. These guys
Okay.
are really good, and coaches do a great
Nice.
job. So I'm doing that, and then I'm helping a couple of college guys out with some scouting stuff.
Okay.
Kind of looking
Hmm.
at some opponents and doing things there. So I, you know,
Nice.
I stay involved. And this summer I went around a bunch of training camps. Uh, you
Nice.
know, Yeah, so I try to stay involved in the game. I still love the game.
Nice. I
Can
figured as much, because I know it's hard to just to walk away from it. Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Yeah,
brother.
I, I'm
I'm definitely not
I'm
ready for
sorry.
that.
Sorry.
Can I just ask one question?
You
Because
can
I know
ask
you
as
talk
many as
about
you want.
the recruiting
Yes.
process. Is there anything in particular? Maybe we have high school students that may be watching this right now. Can you get? Is there any advice that you would give them that maybe colleges are looking at for them to, for like as far as traits or personality or whatever it may be that they're just more paying attention to?
Well, that's again really good question, and I kind of led to it really with one of the questions
Hmm.
you guys asked earlier. When I evaluate college kids, okay, and I don't, for right or wrong, I don't care about stars because I don't really know who's evaluating them. I do
Right.
know the
Right.
colleges aren't the ones assigning those stars, and so I don't trust. I don't want to put my job on somebody else's evaluation. So I'll look at the players from a standpoint of, okay, what are they doing that will translate to college, to them being successful college players. Okay. And I don't look at the technique per se, only because I don't know
Hmm.
how they're being coached. And I feel confident enough to know I can clean up their technique. So I look at their playing personality, and their playing personality is, are they playing physical? Okay, as I
Hmm.
mentioned early when I was mentioning those great players that I grew up admiring, physicality I think is still part of the game. So do you have that dog in you? Okay, and then do you have effort? Okay, and then I always want to see the difference between your great play and your worst play, because if there's a big difference between your highlight and your low light, then you're not very consistent, and I'm concerned about that. Okay, so I want to see a consistency in your play also. All right, and that's what the stars are usually get those because of what you do in underwear, right? You go to all these camps and you
Yep.
run the 40s and you
Yep.
jump and you do all that crap that has very little to do with football. And
Right.
then you or your highlights. You've got really good highlights. So some of the evaluations are legit if you're just grading the highlights. But if that's all you're doing and you're not looking at the entirety of the guy, and as I was
Hmm.
saying, really getting a feel for their playing personality. I do the same thing when I was a pro coach and evaluating college guys. Okay, I mean all the numbers, all the measurables, that's combine stuff. That's in front of me. But I want to see what's your playing personality. What happens if things aren't going well? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
If yeah,
Hmm.
do you just stop playing? I mean, if there's a guy in front of you that's having a better day than you are you going to keep fighting, or are you going to
Yeah.
cower down? I mean, so I want to know what's inside of you, and I think you have to. Matter of fact, I'm sure the only way you really ascertain that is by looking at the entirety of their play. Let's
Yeah.
look at the highlights, look at the game, and see what their playing personality is. Now that's I'm not going to say unique, but certainly there's, talking to different guys. Some guys do it, some guys don't. Let's just say it that way. But I think I feel very confident in saying that I feel like I have a better profile of the guy when evaluating that way. So that's what I would suggest to any high school player. And then probably because you're talking about the high school players, don't get distracted by what I just said. Don't get distracted by stars. Don't be distracted
Right.
by offers. You can only go to one school. And again, the star is somebody else's evaluation anyway. Don't get distracted by followers and all this stuff and things I've
Hmm.
heard from high school kids, through the recruiting process, particularly when I was recruiting in the SEC. I mean, coach, man, I'm putting this out to guys so I can get more followers. And I'm like, dude, what, they ain't playing for you. What
Right.
are you, you know what I mean? But now,
Right.
there's some monetary value to it. But I would still say, don't be distracted by it. Okay, focus. Put your energy on being the best person you can be, being the best young man you can be. I think being a good student is still part of that evaluation because it's what you do
Hmm.
holistically. Okay, and then put your best foot forward as a player. Learn how to play the game and play it hard and play it well. And if you do that, you'll go to college somewhere. It may not be Power Four school. It may not even be an FBS school. But if you want to play collegiate football, if you're a good football player, colleges will find you because there's not enough of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Great stuff, Coach. Great
Appreciate
stuff.
it, Coach.
We
Appreciate the
we
time.
appreciate you stopping by and giving us a
Sure.
little bit of time. I enjoyed that, man.
Very
Hopefully
much.
we can get you to come back some other time, but really appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by.
You're
Yes,
welcome,
Dave.
guys. You asked great questions. You made it easy.
All right.
Well, thank you, Coach.
All right,
All
Coach.
right.
Get in the house, Coach.
All right, you guys have a good evening.
All right, have a good
God bless.
one.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's Coach Brian Baker, everyone. Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, guys. I guess I'm gonna take back over. How about this? How about we take a quick break? When we come back, I want to get into this whole big thing with Micah Parsons and Slay or Darius Slay and what the heck is going on there. And then I think Jay, I think you want to talk a little bit about some WNBA if we have some time as
Yeah,
well, because I know it's
yeah.
playoff time
We'll see. Yep.
for them as well. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. So we're gonna take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back again. Thank you to Coach Brian Baker for coming on and allowing us to interview him. I thought it was very, very interesting, and I loved the fact that he came in again.
Yep.
Big time NFL coach, big time college coach. He's been everywhere, probably on everybody's favorite team. His resume is very, very, very impressive. And as
Yeah.
you heard from him, he has coached some big time players,
Yeah.
some of our favorite players as well. So, but please subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel at The Sideline Speaks. We would greatly appreciate it. Please, if you're watching us, hit that like button. We would greatly appreciate that. We're also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at The Sideline Speaks, and anywhere you could get your podcasts. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, this is Marvin Lewis, and you're watching The Sideline Speaks with Brittany Jones, Jason Collins, and Kevin Walker. They're taking a break, and they will be right back.
Dun, 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 dun. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to The Sideline Speaks with myself, Brittany Jones, alongside Jason Collins and Kevin Walker. Prior to the break, I said we're going to get into this whole, I don't know what's going on here, but it's this whole thing of Michael Parsons show. I actually have a clip of this show, guys, and I'm gonna play it for us right here. So Darius Slay, Eagles cornerbacks Darius Slay was on Cowboys pass rushers Micah Parsons, his show, and for some reason it caused some stir. But let me play the video for a little bit. Stay with us here. Hear what they got to say, and then I guess I have a question off of this. So it's coming up now.
Man, your dog CJ, man, he had some stuff said before the game. He struck again, bro.
Man,
Bro,
that's my dog.
And before we get into this, bro, I'm not trying to, like, y'all know, bro, I'm all positive, bro. I'm not trying to attack CJ at all.
Right.
I know he took what I said personally, and you know, before I even get into it, what we think he is, like, in terms of how we feel, bro, like, we all in the NFL. How one of us saying that another person don't belong here, they just that type of person, like, you feel me though? Like, even with a Pro Bowl, all pro, like, you know, we still can be humbled at any moment. Like, we still gonna get beat. I'ma still get locked up maybe for a game or a rep. You know, it's just a game of football. It's just how it happens.
It happens.
So, like,
man.
What's your thought on that, bro? Like,
yeah, hey, one thing I know about 8, man. 8 go bring the noise. 8 go bring the energy. And 8 go bring all the trash talking that half the team's not doing. So he fulfilled that need for us. You know what I'm saying? He a guy with a lot of energy. He go talk that trash, but, you know, hey, you go talk, you got to back it up at some point of time. And if you don't, he know for sure that media go catch it on attention, and he got to be ready to answer every time. Because if he don't, they media go on his ass every time. But you know what's up with CJ, man. You doing something with him, he gonna do it. And I told him, do your thing, man. But hey, now you don't perform the way you want to perform, they gonna get back on you.
Bro.
All right, guys. First and foremost, whatever screen that Micah had in that daggone show podcast, I need that in my situation here. I got a few monitors going on here, but I like that big long screen like that. I might have to figure out where he got that from. But this has caused a big stir. A big stir amongst fans, amongst fellow podcasters and analysts and sports commentators. Do you guys see any problem with Micah Parsons and Darius Slay teaming up on an episode of the Micah Parsons show? Is there any issue here? Anybody can jump in on this?
Go ahead,
Kate. I would be a hypocrite if I said yes. I have a problem with it because Debo and St. Brown and my St. Brown just did one today as well. So yeah, I'll be a hypocrite if I said yes. But you know what? I do and I don't. Because when you're talking about Micah Parsons and Darius Slay, they're rivals. You know, it's not like they play each other once every 4 years, once a year, once every 2 years. They play each other twice a year. You know, they play for that division title, which no team has won back-to-back titles since 2004, I think it was or is. And he's talking about a teammate, man. So it's
right.
When you look at that from that aspect, when you look at, he's got to defend his boy. He's got to defend. I know Micah is his boy, but his teammate, he's got to share that locker room with him. Yeah, I can see both sides. I do, but me personally, I don't really have a problem with it. You know, I don't have a problem with it. But as long as he's backing his boy up when he's talking junk or talking trash about his teammate, he's got to be. Meaning, Micah Parsons talking about CJ and Slay has to back him up. Has to back up his boy. I think what he called him 8. Yeah, 8's going to talk trash. We all know that. We all know that. But no, I don't. You know what? The more I think about it, I really don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I don't.
So, Jay, you represent. Are you still standing behind the Cowboys?
I'm a Falcons fan now, but we can get to that at some point. But
okay, so you have officially. Wait, before we continue. You have, and we're gonna timestamp this, sign it, dot it, whatever we got. We're gonna make this official.
Yes.
You have officially switched your allegiance from the Cowboys to the Falcons.
Because you know what, Britt? I find myself rooting
Jay, I need a yes or no.
That's my team. Yes, I'm a Falcons fan.
Okay. He has officially put his allegiance to the Atlanta Falcons. That I was a little shocked by that, but okay. But anyway, being that I didn't think he was gonna go to the Falcons of all teams. I thought he was gonna go somewhere else.
I'm going with the home team.
But being that you were just with the Cowboys,
yes,
and somewhat understanding you're from South Jersey, right? So you kind of understand that rivalry situation. How do you feel about this whole situation?
So generally speaking, I think we just have to get used to this new media, right? Where everybody and their mama is going to have a podcast, right? I just think that's the way it's going to be. And I don't even have an issue with him having him on. I do agree with K. Walker. It's a little weird being that they're division rivals and all that. But the reality is nowadays, all these guys are friends anyway, right?
Right.
So I'm okay with him having it on. But the part that's a little messy for me is the line of questioning that Micah tried to take it to, right? Like, what do you think he's not going to sit there and dog out his teammates on your podcast because he's got to go back and play with them next week and be in the same locker room and that whole thing. So I just think Micah was being messy, even bringing that up, because what did you expect him to do? He's not going to sit there and have a good time with you and dog his teammate out. So to me, that's the only thing. Sometimes I don't know. Like Micah's a Penn State guy. We have a Penn State brotherhood, the whole thing. But sometimes I just wish he would stop talking, Britt. I really do. So I'm okay with it. But I just felt messy. Like that was the first time I heard it. And when he was first getting into the question, I was like, man, this feels like a reality TV show type question, like the Real Housewives trying to stir up some drama. That's how I felt about the line of questioning. So bad question by Micah, but just overall, I think it's fine for these guys to get together. I think we'll probably see more and more of it as time goes on.
And Britt, if you didn't play, I watched a little bit of this today. And if you played a little bit more of it, I think Micah Parsons was sipping on us on some libations. If I saw that correctly, not in the clip that you showed, but if you let that play a little longer, you'll see that, and that's when the messy part comes into play, Jay.
Okay.
I think I didn't like the CJ Gardner Johnson thing. I think it was a little over the top. I think he should have stayed away from that as much as possible. But I mean, granted, he is part of the Dallas Cowboys, so you're going to try to create as much issues in the other locker room probably as possible, whether that's his intentions or not. I don't think it was his full-on intention, but I do feel like he had an idea of what he was doing just a little bit. I do think Clay did play it safe. He did say, that's my guy, CJ is going to be CJ. He's going to get after, he's going to talk his talk, and he can respect that. But if I had to speak for the fan base, and the rivalry, I don't know if I like it for in season, because you're trying to be buddy. Both teams right now to me are cookie crumbles, butt cheeks. I don't know where I came up with that. I just came up with that. Okay, they both need some work. All right. It came up. It was random, but I came up with it. In other words, they both need to get their shit together.
I don't know if I want to though, but
and that was me trying to be PG because I don't know if we got babies watching the show. So, but basically, both teams need some work. And just sitting back, understanding the rivalry for how long this rivalry has been going on, the tension that it can create amongst the fan base, even players, and I'm sitting back and I'm like, could I ever see a Brian Dawkins doing a podcast during their years with a Tony Romo or something like that? I can't see that.
Right.
That's not going to happen. But then I had to, me personally, and I'm talking to my Eagles fans, even Cowboys fans, like right now, we really got to sit back and look at the time and look at the players that we're talking about. They don't understand that rivalry. I have a lot of respect for Darius Slay, but he don't understand this rivalry. He came from Detroit. He was drafted into Detroit. They were booty cheeks for a very long time prior to coming to Philadelphia. And then he started winning. So I don't think he's really understanding of the Philly culture and how passionate I think he understands the passion of the fan base, but he's not like a Jason Kelce. I don't see Kelce during end season doing this with Dak Prescott. That's not happening. I might see him doing it now. He's, it's after career, he's retired, whatnot. Maybe even in the off season. So they understand that culture. They understand the passion. They understand the dislike for one another. There's a level of respect, but there's a major dislike. These two guys, they don't. And I think we have to understand that. At first, I was a little tight. Like, why are you sitting with the Cowboys having funny ha conversations in the middle of the season? Didn't that wait till the off season? But then I had to sit back and catch myself and be like, you know what? These dudes is just different. And they play different. And as we see right now, they're playing soft on both teams. One run and one can't stop a touchdown pass. But any thoughts on and like K-Walk, you just alluded to it. You just seen Amon-Ra St. Brown. Are they rivals? The Lions and not rivals.
I mean, no, they play each other. That the whole thing last year with the NFC Championship, they were talking about that, and then they play each other this year. So it's not really it's not the same rivalry. It's not the same thing. But you make some great points, Britt. Like this is a different age. I mean, we see guys now after a game, not just football, but in any game, they switch jerseys and they sign them and things of that nature. So they understand, they respect one another. I think it's more of a respect thing than it is like a hate, dislike or a like or dislike thing. I don't dislike using that word hate, but it's more of a respect thing, and that's where you're starting to see it. And they are built differently. than they were back in the day. You wouldn't have seen a Ronnie Lott having a conversation with with a I'm trying to just think who somebody back in the day he played, anybody. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
nonetheless, but
Kaepernick having a conversation with Russell Wilson. Let's just go back that far.
They may have. Yeah, exactly. That could have been. Yeah, I don't see
Might
that
have.
happening. But I never knew Cap to talk junk like that. But nonetheless, yeah. The point is, yeah, we don't. This day and age is a lot different than it was back then. So that's why I don't have a problem with it, because you got to change with the times, and this is how it is now. I want to see if that was like Michael Parsons talking to like Saquon Barkley, because both of those guys play defense, so they don't play against each other even when they're playing against each other, meaning Slay and Michael Parsons.
Right.
They're never on the field at the same time. So I want to see something like a CeeDee Lamb talking to a CJ Gardner or Darius Slay, to see if that conversation would it'd be different. But no, I don't have a problem with it, because that's just the way it is. These guys are today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think the I don't want to say it's not soft, but they don't really care as much as they don't really care for the rivalry as much as they did back in the day.
Yeah,
I know. I think I seen Trey Thomas come out. He was disappointed. Like all the old school guys, it's like you do not sit and you talk with a cowboy during the season. Are you out of your mind? So, and because of that, things have been said, but I think apologies have also been told. So, and it was well needed, because it went very, very far.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about Cowboys and Eagles,
Yeah.
y'all. It's one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL for the last, I don't know how many years. So it could be
Michael Irvin paralyzed on the Veteran Stadium, and the Eagles fans are cheering. I mean, that's how much of a hated rivalry it was.
Right. So it's huge. But Jay, K-Walk, any final thoughts on this so-called thing that just blew up in the media?
Not really, but I do think that's a great point, Britt. I just don't think these players understand how deep that rivalry runs. Like, even think back to like Buddy Ryan and Jimmy Johnson, right? Remember, like they were like putting a bounty out on play. Like, it was crazy. You're right, Britt. I just don't think they get it. I don't, and maybe they just don't. Maybe they understand it's a big rivalry, but they just don't care as much. Maybe everybody's so rich that everyone's just so carefree. I don't know what it is, but that animosity is just not there anymore. It's just
not, because just even a few years ago when you had Jason Peters, he left and went to the Cowboys, I think. He was basically retired. He was a free agent. He went to the Cowboys, and you know how angry Eagles fans was? You know how angry former players were? And he wasn't even drafted with the Eagles, but I guarantee you he'll probably retire as an Eagle, right? So it was so angry. And then prior to that, DeMarco Murray. Remember, DeMarco Murray went from the Cowboys to the Eagles, and Cowboys fans was doing all types of things, burning jerseys and just frustrated. This how big that rivalry is and still is. It's funny because I just posted something on my Instagram of a little boy. He was opening up his birthday gifts, right? And everybody was laughing. They was like, "Oh, he got a Cowboys jersey," and the little boy had to be no older than 2 years old. And he looked at that Cowboys jersey and tossed it. I said, "Yep. That's about right." And I said that young man was raised right. That's what you're supposed to do with that. But that's just telling you the culture that it is. So we really don't care about any other team. But when it comes to those two teams, the Cowboys probably only care about the Eagles fans and vice versa. Or the Eagles and vice versa. Do not say those words. Do not wear that jersey in my house. I got an uncle who's a Cowboys fan. He cannot wear that jersey in my house.
That's how I feel about. That's how we feel about the Cowboys as 49er fans. Even George Kittle, when they play the Cowboys, he wears a F Dallas shirt on there, but it says the actual word, but it says F Dallas on his shirt, and he wears it underneath his jersey, underneath his uniform, each and every time they play the Cowboys. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the future goes with this. If this is something that will continue as the younger fan base grows older, because they're going to grow with these younger players. If the players may not care, then it may change how the fan base thinks of things. But it's definitely gonna be interesting. All right, guys, let's move on. Actually, I think that's it for me. Jay, did you want to have anything on the WNBA? Have any?
We could talk about it real quick. I mean, we've got a couple good series going on. The games are on tonight. New York and Las Vegas. The Aces are playing right now. I think New York is up by about 5, and New York handled them pretty well in that first game as well. So, just real quick, your thoughts on this series. I mean, to me, New York looks like the better team. The Aces were kind of finding their form late in the season. But just kind of based off of what I've seen through this first game and a half, to me, New York looks like the better team. But K-Walk, what do you think, and how do you see this series playing out? I think second round is best of 5 too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right now, I just see like a team that is on a mission right now, Jay. As far as the Liberty, I think their motto is, or their theme of this year is unfinished business, because they felt like they should have had it last season, the championship. And right now they're taking advantage of everything that you said about the Aces. The Aces weren't themselves. It could be because they have that championship hangover or whatever the case may be. But the Liberty are taking it to them right now, as far as being more aggressive, being doing the little things, doing all of the things that you need to do, the physical play, out rebounding, out hustling, everything, all the intangibles that are part of the game. They're beating them at that. I mean, the Liberty beating the Aces, and I think they're focused. And barring a major injury, I just think that it's theirs to lose. I know we got another series with the Lynx and the Sun as well, but I like the Liberty in the way they're playing, and they look really focused right now.
Yeah. And Britt, as you've pointed out many times, you can't count the Aces out because of Asia Wilson,
Right.
the best player in basketball. But kind of based off of how this series is going so far, do you feel like the Aces have a shot, or do you think this is New York series?
I'm hoping it's the New York series. For those who don't know, I'm a huge New York Liberty fan. Ever since I first watched Teresa Witherspoon and never left as a kid, as a baby, really. But it should be Liberty series, but again, it's so hard because the Aces are still, to me, like a well-oiled machine. Like, you don't want to don't catch them off guard, right? Or don't allow them to catch you off guard. So the Liberty, to me, they still have to stay focused. They still have to maintain what they're doing. Still continue to play physical, go through their stars and Stewie and Sabrina. That first game, they played very, very well. Very, very well. I would like a little bit more from the role players as well, just to get that, that extra, like, we kick you down, you want to stay the heck down. So you're not going to have a chance. But again, you're going up against the MVP, and again, in my opinion only, the face of the WNBA, and Asia Wilson. And then if is it, oh gosh, is it Mitchell? Is Mitchell, I believe, if she gets healthy, like if some of those guys on the Aces really play how they play with their experience, they could turn things around very, very quick. But I still don't think this is going to be an easy series for New York just yet. It's still early. It's only game 2. I'm hoping we win this one, so we don't have to come back on the other side. But I'm be honest, I'm putting it out there right now. Liberty get past the Aces, because I think this is a thorn in their side, was the Aces. I think they win the whole thing. And boy, I've been waiting for the championship for the entire time the New York Liberty existed. They don't have one. We need one, please.
I'll be at the parade, and I'll be at the parade.
And in a 5-game,
I'm taking the train. I think I'm gonna take the train out there.
Meet you there, Brett.
And in a 5-game series, like if you win tonight and you go up 2-0, I mean, now they got to beat you 3 in a row, like, which is going to be very difficult to do.
Very
so
difficult.
If the Aces want to stay in this thing, they've got to win this game tonight. A bit of a surprise for me was the other series, Minnesota and Connecticut. Walk and I talked about it last week, Britt, and I picked Minnesota as my champion this year. I thought they were going to win it all. I still do, I guess, but obviously they got to win tonight. But Connecticut upset them in game 1. Walk, any thoughts on that game? How'd you see that play out?
Yeah, I just thought that the Sun took advantage of their length because they're very long.
They
They're a
are.
very long team,
Yeah.
and but Minnesota's been playing. You're right, Jay. Minnesota's been playing some surprisingly good basketball, consistent basketball throughout the season. I'm watching this game, and it was a pretty good game. Lynx had that
Yeah.
ball. I mean, had the game in control, but for some reason or another, the Lynx. I mean, the Sun just decided to take over. Like they had the ability to do that. I just thought the Lynx were a better team, but they're at home, so that they rode that crowd, meaning the Sun. So this game, I think the Lynx pull it out tonight, though. I think the Lynx get it done, and this is one of those series I think that we're going to see go down to the wire. We may see it go to game 5.
Yeah.
But I think this series is going to be, not saying that the first series isn't going to be more competitive, but I think the Lynx and the Sun matchup is going to be one that's going to really say, okay, wow, this WNBA is fantastic, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason I like the Lynx, they play great defense.
Yeah.
The offensive sets that they run are really smooth. Like it almost reminds me a little bit of San Antonio and Pop. Like I mean, we know that their coach spent a lot of time in San Antonio. I really like how they run their offense, and they have a great player in their own right in Nafisa Collier. So they have a lot going for them. But Britt, how do you see this series playing out? What's your call on Minnesota and Connecticut?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I missed that first game, guys. I really did, and I was tight about it. Um, but look, I like the Lynx. I've liked the Lynx for a long time. Collier is a fantastic. My goodness, is she a
Yeah,
great player?
really good.
And I know Sun are up 1-0, but I'm gonna say this: don't continue to underestimate the Sun. My goodness, they're very physical. Alyssa Thomas, she leads that. I feel like she leads in that physicality for real. It's that mindset, that mentality of you're not gonna push us around. We're gonna be the ones to bully you. We're gonna be your bullies.
Yeah.
And then Carrington, she's a fantastic shooter. She could score from anywhere on the court. I love her. I love her length. And she's long as heck.
Yep.
And I think what elevated the Sun for me was the trade. Marina, what's her name? Mabry.
Yep.
Marina
Yeah.
She's
Mabry.
been great. Yep.
Right. When she catches fire, she catches fire. Like if she's gonna shoot them threes, one moment they're out of the game, any second with her 3-point shooting, they're right back in it. So I'm gonna actually go with the Sun on this one. I'm gonna say the Sun's gonna take this series. I could absolutely be wrong because I just feel like Nafisa Collier is going to all of a sudden just take off. Although she's already took off, but I mean, just going to elevate it again, but to another level. But it's just something about this Connecticut Sun team that I can't underestimate, and they playing very well together right now.
Yeah, and they're you're right. Sometimes it's just matchups too, and I'm not sure that
Mhm.
like from a style perspective, like this matchup might just favor the Sun, but we'll see. That game too is tonight, 9:30, so that'll be a really good one tonight. All right, guys, good stuff, fun show, great interview by Coach Baker. So that was a good one tonight. But K-Walk, before we get out of here, let the people know where to find you and what you're looking forward to the rest of the week.
Yeah, guys, you can find me on Facebook, Kevin Walker, Instagram, Kevin.Walker142, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Kevin Walker142. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, Sports Talk with K Walk and E. Scott. Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Got a great one down for you. 7 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, wherever you get your podcast. Please tune in. Check us out. I was dethroned last week, ladies and gentlemen. Nail biter came down to it. No TV, man. I had to use. It was all knowledge. He tried to. I think E. Scott tried to get you on.
Yeah,
Jay,
he reached out. I couldn't come on. Yep.
Yeah, I was dethroned last night.
Who ended up winning?
Last week, Special K. Special K.
Okay.
Got me last night. So looking at what's that?
What was the top? What was the
category? It was
category.
A variety of category. Yeah, it was a variety of things. It could have been what was it? It was books. It was, you name it, Britt. It was it was all types of stuff. It came down to the wire, man, and I couldn't get it done. I didn't get it done.
Okay.
It was fun though. It was most competitive, and K finally got me, man. K finally got me. But looking forward to that. Looking forward to a good one. Was it Thursday night? We got the Saints and who we have Thursday night? Why am I drawing a blank?
Yeah, it's a good game. Is it the Chiefs? No. Who is it?
No, the Falcons.
Is that the Cowboys and
Falcons.
Lions Thursday? Oh no, it's Falcons and
No,
Bucks
no.
on Thursday.
Falcons and Bucks. That's exactly what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
Falcons
exactly
and
what it is.
Bucks.
Yeah. Looking forward to
Awesome.
that because, yeah, good buddy Special K on Sports Talk with K Walk. He's a Bucks fan. So looking forward to that. And just looking forward to WNBA playoffs. Looking forward to the playoffs, MLB playoffs as well. My Yankees don't play till Saturday. So, and then, of course, for college football Saturday and Sunday, a plethora of NFL. So just looking forward to that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, good stuff, K-Walk. You guys can find me at Jason Talk Sports on all social media platforms at Jason Talk Sports. Yeah, K-Walk, I'm with you, man. Any and everything that's on that's sports, I'm watching. I'll even start watching a little baseball now that playoffs are getting ready to kick off. So I'm locked in on all of it. Britt, what you got for us?
You guys can find me on IG, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brittany Monique. It's at the bottom of the screen. Make no Y in my name, y'all. No Y in my name at all.
Right there.
It's right there. I'm also on TikTok. Don't use that too much though. But what I'm looking forward to is my New York Liberty winning right now. They're up by 9. Hopefully, they can continue that. But also, man, thank God the Eagles are on the bye week. I needed that break.
Oh, they have a
I
bye
don't
this week?
have. I don't. Yes, thank God. I don't have. I'm sorry, Lord. Please forgive me for using your name in vain. Thank goodness. Thank goodness they have a bye week because I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack the last 4 games. But no, Phillies. It was Red October, y'all. Red October. I get excited about baseball. I know my Phillies are on a bye right now. The first round bye, but I'm looking at this Mets Brewers. I think the Mets just won because we played a winner of those, so I'm excited about that. And basketball is right around the corner. Training camp has officially started, so NBA basketball. So I'm also looking forward to that as well. It's a lot going
Hey,
on. Fall
Jay,
is
I'm
the
looking
best.
forward to that Penn State UCLA game at 12 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
gonna
that's
be an
that's gonna be a
interesting one.
good one. It's gonna be a good
Yeah,
one. Then we got
interesting.
USC the week after that, so
Yeah.
things
Ooh.
are gonna get tough for
Y'all
us here.
go out there, or
And
you're
we go
still
out there
you go out
too.
there? Okay.
Yeah, so
All right.
it's gonna be interesting.
What's your record, Jay?
We're undefeated right now. We're 4-0 right now, but we got some tough ones coming up. So
Bowling Green
Y'all
has
look like
something.
a
Bowling Green.
y'all look like a good undefeated, like, or
I mean, we've
like
been
you
pretty
get far.
good. We play really good defense, so I think our defense will keep us in a lot of games. But
You look like the Ohio State undefeated.
now Ohio State, man, that roster is just so stacked. I mean, they got good players all over the place. The only silver lining is they got to come to our place and play us. So we'll see. But we got some other games we got to win before we even think about those guys. So we got some other games we got to get through. So
You
we'll see.
I'm being smart and asking all them questions, right?
They're good, man. They're really good. So we'll see.
Well, Michigan I think Michigan lost the game, so I think they may still make
Texas beat Michigan. They beat
they
them
may
up
still
pretty
make the
good
playoffs,
too.
but I'm not too worried
Yeah.
about Michigan. They're
No.
irrelevant right now.
Their offense isn't any good. So
Nope.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys sticking around. We will be back here live next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So for Brittany Jones and Kevin Walker, I'm Jason Collins. We'll see you guys next week.
Go Phillies.